What's the difference between working at Deloitte and working at PwC? You'll find out by the end of this video. Let's start by talking about each of these firms. Both Deloitte and 𝗲𝗲𝗲𝗲𝗲𝗲𝗲, better known as PwC, are part of an elite group known as the Big Four, which gets its name for being the 4 largest professional service companies in the world. The other 2 members are KPMG and EY. If you're curious about KPMG and EY, I actually have other videos covering them. But for this video, I'm going to be focusing on the biggest 2 of the Big Four, which are Deloitte and PwC. And we'll start by talking about what made Deloitte and PwC where they are today. Deloitte is the oldest of the Big Four, being founded in 1845, and is also the largest of the Big Four in terms of revenue, in terms of headcount, and in terms of global presence. In fact, last year, Deloitte made nearly $65 billion. In fact, 45% of their revenue came from their consulting and advisory services, working with clients such as Microsoft, Starbucks, and Berkshire Hathaway. In order to service these clients, Deloitte employs over 450,000 employees worldwide across their 700 offices in more than 150 countries and territories. PwC, on the other hand, is a lot newer, being founded in 1998 as a result of a merger between 2 other companies, Pricewaterhouse and Coopers Lybrand. And while PwC is not as large as Deloitte, it is still the second largest of the Big Four, and last year made $53 billion in revenue, mostly from its consulting, advisory, and auditing practices. To put that in perspective, their revenues was double that of McKinsey, Bain, and Boston Consulting Group all combined. And their clients include Bank of America, Chevron, and Goldman Sachs. And to service these clients, they employ over 400,000 employees. And similar to Deloitte, PwC also has over 700 offices across more than 150 countries and territories. So now that you know the history of Deloitte and PwC, let's talk about some of the big differences you'll notice between people who work at Deloitte and PwC. First off is the travel. Deloitte is known for traveling a lot more than PwC. And as a result of this, the work-life culture is also different. Deloitte is known for having on average the highest working hours of the Big Four. So work-life balance here, major difference that PwC, while still working hard, does have a better work-life than Deloitte on average. We'll talk about why the term on average later in the video, because you could actually have a better work life at Deloitte than PwC as well. But we'll talk about that in a bit. And I also mentioned earlier that Deloitte is a lot older than PwC, even before the merger. So there's a lot more alumni. In fact, there's an estimated 1.1 million active alums from the Deloitte network versus the 800,000 that came from the PwC network, including those before the merger. So if you're someone who cares about access to alumni network, working at Deloitte gives you a 35% bigger alumni network. That's pretty big. And as a result of the alumni, you get an extension, which is the exit opportunities. Because you have more alums, you have more opportunities for what you can do afterwards. But both Deloitte and PwC give you amazing exit opportunities. But I wanted to highlight some of the differences. So I spent hours looking through tens of thousands of profiles on LinkedIn to figure out what was the major difference between the 2. And I noticed a few things. First off, at Deloitte, there were 4 fields that proportionally more Deloitte alumni went into. This included corporate strategy, entrepreneurship, private equity, and venture capital. And for PwC, I noticed there were 3 fields that a lot more PwC alumni went to compared to their Deloitte counterparts. These were finance and advisory roles, especially at mergers and acquisition teams. Second was leadership roles within government as well as public sector. And third was technology companies. This doesn't mean that if you work at Deloitte, you can't work at a tech company. It just means that proportionally, there was just more people who went to certain sectors. Again, both companies, and I'll talk about this later in their similarities, share a lot of amazing exit opportunities, but these were just some of the ones that were different when I was looking through tens of thousands of LinkedIn profiles. So with that in mind, let's actually talk about the similarities, because we talked a lot about the differences. And the similarities are some great ones. First is the reputation and global presence. Both are part of the Big Four. So you're going to have that on your resume, either working at Deloitte or working at PwC. It's going to carry with you for the rest of your life. Second, both are known for their consulting practices. And you see that in their revenue, where consulting makes up more than 40% of the revenue for both companies. And the work-life balance is going to be very similar. You're typically going to work between 40 and 55 hours on average. But again, the project can also vary, and you can work as many as 70 hours because it really depends on the project. While I mentioned earlier that Deloitte is known for having higher hours, it really comes down to the project. So for example, if you're working on a Deloitte project that is 6 months long, Deloitte has done it before, and the client and the leadership team from Deloitte know each other very well, then you can expect better hours than, for example, if you're working at PwC for the same scope of a project. But instead of 6 months, you have 3 months, it's a new leadership team and a new client, and you're doing it for the first time. That could mean that you have higher working hours. So again, it really varies on the certain project that you take on. And as you're working on these projects, you're going to be getting a lot of intensive training programs and opportunities to grow. In fact, you don't have to take my word for it. You can actually just look at the alums who come from Deloitte and PwC. For example, Deloitte alumni have gone on to do anything from being president of league operations for the NBA to being the CEO of Starbucks, while PwC alumni have gone to do everything from founding Nike to being the CEO of Delta Airlines. And if you're already thinking about the benefits and you enjoy what I've mentioned already about working at Deloitte and PwC, luckily the application process is also very similar between both. I have an entire different set of videos that walk through the application process for both of these and how to get the offer. But for now, all you have to know is that the application process is actually pretty similar. It's 3 stages. First, you have to submit the application. Second, you have to pass the online assessment. And third, you have to pass the interviews. And again, I have videos that cover this, so I'll put that in the description. And once you get the job, both at Deloitte and PwC, there's a similar promotion path. At Deloitte, if you're starting with no experience, for example, you're an undergrad, you'll start off as an analyst, work your way up to consultant, become a senior consultant, then a manager, then a senior manager, then a principal, and then a director. At PwC, you'll start off as an associate, work your way up to senior associate, then become a manager, then become a director, and then become a partner. And while you're doing all of this, you're also being compensated. In fact, the compensation that you make working at one of these firms are among the top 5% of earners around the world. So imagine being 20, graduating from university, and you're already earning in the top 5% of earners. And of course, this goes up if you have an MBA, if you have a master's, if you've been at the firm longer. And if you're curious which one pays more, on average, Deloitte does slightly pay more, but both are going to pay you very well. So knowing all this here, which firm should you actually work at? When it comes to this question, I really think about this from 2 dimensions. So over the years, I've been very fortunate to be able to help a number of people land offers. And a lot of times they're landing Deloitte offers and also PwC offers. And they're wondering, Davis, which offer do I take? The first thing is to think about the long term. What do you want to do after Deloitte or PwC? Because whatever you want to do afterwards should also inform which office you take and which position you take. And even as you're there, potentially what projects you take or don't take. And that's because, for example, if you know where you want to be able to work backwards from there. As I mentioned earlier in the video, both places will give you a number of exit opportunities, but there are some fields where Deloitte or PwC will have the slight edge. And so you can go back and review that part of the video. But I just want to let you know that if you already know what you want to do, work backwards from there. But if you're not sure what you want to do, or you're deciding between multiple opportunities, or they all seem great to you, then I want you to consider the second part, which is the short term, which is to think about the culture and which one you vibe with a lot more. And when it comes down to culture, while I did mention that Deloitte on average has a faster paced culture, a higher work-life culture, when it comes to culture, what you really want to do is look at it on the smallest level you can, which is at the office you're applying to, and if you have that information, on the team that you're applying to. So as you're going through the recruiting process, I really want you to get to know the people who are interviewing you, you're interacting with. Are these the type of people that you want to spend your working day with? Because if you don't enjoy working with them, you're not going to get the most out of your experience. Because if you do enjoy the projects you're working on, the people you're working on, and the type of work you're doing, you're going to put in a lot more and get a lot more out of it. So if you're unsure about what you want to do after Deloitte or after PwC, I want you to really focus on the short term, which is which culture, which team, who do you vibe with the most? And it's totally okay as you're going through the interview process and you find out that after meeting a string of people, you just don't vibe with the people. That's totally okay. And that's a good learning because you'd rather learn that out after a few hours of interactions with someone versus signing a contract and you're there for 2 years. So take note of that. And if you don't know what you want to do long term, focus on the short term. Now that you know the similarities between Deloitte and also PwC, I'm curious, which of the 2 firms are you more interested to apply to? Is it Deloitte or is it PwC? In fact, if you comment below, I'll send you some free resources to help you land interviews and prepare for those interviews so you can get that offer. So for example, if you type in PwC below, I'll send you some additional resources to help you prepare for applying to PwC and landing your offers at PwC. And if you're 100% serious about pursuing a career at a firm like Deloitte, PwC, or another amazing consulting firm, I'd love to help you even more. Here at my consulting offer, my team and I, we're a team of former recruiters, interviewers, and consultants. And all we do is we help people start their careers in management consulting. In fact, we helped over 800 people at the time of this recording start their careers in management consulting. And the best news about this is we recently put together a training video that puts together all the secrets about how we help them prepare for the interviews and how we help them secure that offer. So all you have to do is click the link below and you'll get access to the free training and you'll be on your way to landing your dream consulting job. But I don't want you to take my word for it. Actually hear from Sunny. Sunny landed an offer for PwC despite coming from a non-target school, having a low GPA, and no business background. Find out how he did it in his video. I'll actually link to his video next to my head so you can watch out, and he'll share his journey about how he went from not knowing how to even land an interview to ultimately landing an offer at PwC. All right, I'll see you in the next video.